What's up, everybody? Brett Griffin. Welcome to DBC number 351. Freddie, we've got our first dual citizen on the show today and our two most distinguished guests that have ever been in the room at the same time.
That is 1,000% a fact. Freddie Kraft, spotter for Bubba Wallace. I have no voice today. I must have been screaming at Big
Did you go to Big Al's after?
Yeah, for a while. Megan was actually worried about it last night because I think I was screaming so loud that she said, I think you're going to have no voice for the podcast. So it sounds like I smoked 3 packs of cigarettes before I got here this morning. But hi, Casey. How are you?
Thanks, Meg, for bringing Freddie in full force this morning. Casey Vogt here, and yes, it is the battle of the broadcasts today. Oh. We are joined by two of the coolest people in the sport. I would say they have pretty awesome jobs. Bob Pockrass, right? Pockrass.
How do you say that?
Pockrass, right?
Just checking.
And of course, Leigh Diffey. Thank you both for coming out, because I'm very surprised that you all are willing to be on the show still after some of the that these two clowns cause.
We don't cause. Bob, have we ever said anything negative about you ever in the history of the sport?
You guys, maybe once or twice, but that's okay.
Lee, this is where Bob comes in.
I just don't understand how you guys said that this is a battle. Lee and I are friends.
I know you.
I was like,
where you guys gonna get on a table and joust here in a minute? But
and if it's a battle, you better put your money on Lee, because
we spent 2 hours recording this show, and as soon as it's over and it comes out, Bob texts Freddie and I everything that was wrong in the show because he knows every rule and everything. He's the omniscient Bob.
Well, when somebody jumps into your DMs, you kind of pay attention, and that's what this guy did. And
yeah,
I had to accept the invitation, and then
hang on a second. Brett slid into your DMs.
He did, and
255 pounds.
And Junior said, "Did you get this cleared by NBC?" And I said, "Yeah, publicity PR said it's okay." So
really?
Here I am.
Man, we appreciate both of you guys coming by. You ended up somehow. Brett books guests all the time, and somehow he booked both of you guys for the same day. So this is how we ended up in this situation. But I mean, talk about a ROVAL yesterday. I really have no voice. I can't even talk. But Leigh, I know that was your first ROVAL. Like, what were your impressions of the racetrack and the race that you saw yesterday?
So I was really excited to see on the schedule for the track walk period for the drivers and the crew chiefs and everybody. And I changed my Friday and got there to do that. And it's something that I've done a lot throughout my career. When I go to a track that I don't know, I love to walk it. And or at least, even if it's a golf cart ride, you walk it, you run it, you do whatever you get around it. Very lucky this year that Jeff Burton takes Steve Letard and myself around on a Saturday morning, but I wanted to walk it. I was blown away by the undulation. The track was very different to what it presents, or how it presents on television. So I was really surprised at that. I immediately thought it was a great blend of a road course and a street course. And then the way that it raced yesterday, I thought there was lots of variability. There were some good overtakings. We knew that was going to be moments of chaos, which there was. So it was double thumbs up.
Bob, I know you interviewed everybody leading into this race, and there was a lot of concerns about Turn 7. Did anybody? I didn't think it was as bad as anybody thought it was going to be yesterday. Did anybody talk about that after the race, going in, after the race was over?
Not too much, except for maybe Tyler Reddick and some of his adventures
and Daniel
in there, and Daniel, yes. But and talking to the drivers after the Xfinity race, they didn't seem to have a huge issue with it. And then I think the biggest issue people had was the change of the curbing in the front stretch chicane, which they welcomed. It was just, now you're going into a race with a little bit of an idea, but not a full idea of how it was going to play out. I mean, Lee talks about the track walk on Friday, and we saw several drivers and crew chiefs out there. And then you saw several more doing another track or partial track walk on Sunday morning, looking on at those new humps, and saw Daniel Swerves almost jumping on the humps. He was like, these are soft. And so they were trying to figure out how to get around there. So I think that is where the most angst was.
I thought it was funny that Suarez had blue paint all over his shoes, and you could see the footprints of he must have walked over the fresh paint. But the biggest thing for us Sunday morning was the thing I saw Saturday during the Xfinity race. I got a text from our team, and it was from a prominent. He's not a crew chief anymore. He was a very prominent crew chief. Now he's in the GM role or whatever. They were talking about the curbing in that chicane was worse, beating the drivers up worse than Watkins Glen ever did. We talked about that Watkins Glen getting to the bus stop, and they were like, okay, we're gonna look at that. And they actually they took a whole set of turtles away, right? I mean, for the race on Sunday. So I mean, that was obviously a big change for the you Bubba thought he was Travis Pastrana in qualifying. I think he was coming straight as he hit it. Usually you hit your right sides on the curbing. He was straight up in the air, 4 wheels off the ground, and I was like, "Well, this is not going to be the best lap we've ever run here." But yeah, I mean, it's ever changing track as always in NASCAR.
Leigh, you mentioned you walk the track. You're seeing a lot of these tracks for the first time in your life, and not only are you seeing them for the first time, now you've got to go out there and paint the picture during the race for everybody. How are you preparing for these weekends?
Just trying to be I guess I'm a little bit old to be a sponge, but never too old to be a sponge, right? So surrounded by great people, learning every second of every weekend from the people I'm surrounded by, relying on my experience in the sport to not get through, that's the wrong way, but like to enjoy where I'm at and just like being open eyes, open ears, listening, learning. Even somebody like my teammate who I sit shoulder to shoulder like I am with Bob, with Jeff Burton, and everything he's done and achieved in the sport. And he said to me just the other day, he said, "Diff," he said, "it's pretty cool having you here." He said, "Your fresh eyes are making me appreciate things that I'd forgotten." And so it's kind of a blend of everything. And you're never too old to be a student and learn things. Once upon a time in my life, I was a school teacher for a very brief period of time.
A PE teacher, right?
PE teacher,
How the hell do you go from PE teacher to NBC superstar?
Well, I mean, at one point in my life, I thought I was going to be a farmer or I was going to work in agricultural economics. I studied agriculture at high school, and so I don't know. My life has taken a lot of turns, and I guess that's made the ride pretty interesting. But grew up as a kid racing dirt bikes, and that was the path that ultimately led to commentary. But to get back to your original question, it's been a great ride, and I love. I'm not afraid to admit that this is my first time, or this is new, or this is I'm learning, because I think that's what the viewers do, right? They want to know what it's like, and so I'm trying to help get that message across with my newness, my freshness to certain places like Talladega or the Roval or Darlington.
Darlington. Say it like a redneck one time, just for me. Darlington. You sounded drunk.
Well, that's the biggest thing for me. Like we take for granted that we get to do this job. You know what I mean? Yeah. And I know we about no off weeks or whatever. But then I ran into Leigh on the roof at Darlington, and he's like, this place is unbelievable. Like, and you don't realize when, like, if nobody's been there, but somebody's not been there before, you take it for granted. And then I saw you were talking about Talladega a couple weeks ago. Like, we get to do this for a living. And then like you said, like Jeff Burton said, fresh eyes. Like, you get to remember, you know what? I'm pretty privileged to do this. And Bob, I mean, how long have you been doing this, Bob? 100 years now? 30?
Well, full time since late 2003. But I joined the Daytona paper in '91, so I've been to every Daytona 500 since '92. And I joke that my first Daytona 500 was writing about, was it Bill Elliott had he just joined Junior Johnson's team? Is that right?
In 1992, I was 10 years old.
Yeah,
Bob. I don't really remember.
Well, anyway, it was about Bill Elliott not playing nice with his teammates at Daytona, and the stories haven't changed in 30 years. It's just different people. But you talk about, sometimes not realizing it. I do that half marathon at Daytona. I've done it the last couple of years.
Me too.
Yeah, sure. But the first part is around the track, and usually people are serious and they're running hard but people there are running up the banking and down the banking and up the banking and down the banking because they've never been on the track. They've never been inside that facility, and it just amazes them. And just to see, people taking selfies and stopping in their first mile of they know they got another 12 to go, but it's just amazing to see the perspective of somebody new. And that's what I love about Leigh being here, because he talks about how intriguing, right, the Charlotte ROVAL is. While we probably hear people say, oval and in a parking lot, right? That's the jaded version of people who've run it several times. And to hear Leigh's excitement for it and intrigue in it, I think helps bring back that excitement for all of us.
Obviously, I haven't been able to go watch the broadcast yet. Leigh, how did you make that ass whooping by Kyle Larson sound exciting yesterday?
Well, I don't think we had to, because there was so much else going on, right?
Yeah.
There was, I mean, look at the Tyler Reddick into Daniel Hemrick, the bounce off and then hitting his boss and getting the rear wheels airborne. And I mean, there were so many things that were happening, kind of Kyle out in front and dominating was a side story.
Give us what was the Reddick analogy?
Oh, I said on the broadcast that it was like slicing it off the tee, hitting a tree, and your ball bouncing back in the middle of the fairway.
He saved him. I mean, he saved Reddick's day.
Yeah, 100%.
Because Reddick was wrecking. He was going to wreck. He went in there, wheel hopped, and was completely wrecking until he hit the 31 car, and then the circle car did a circle.
Well, don't forget that those guys used to be teammates in a truck at Brad Keselowski Racing way back about 7-8 years ago.
Yeah.
So they're Tyler Reddick felt bad about it when I talked to Daniel Hemrick. Hemrick's like, he kind of gets what Reddick needed to do there. He said he wished Tyler had a little bit more patience, but he said it wasn't egregious.
He didn't. Yeah, he didn't mean to. So I got a question for both of you guys. Leigh, this may be easier for you than Bob because you're quote new here to the Cup Series, but as journalists and as broadcasters, how do you guys keep the audience that we have engaged and yet still go after the new audience? Because Bob, you mentioned you've been doing this since 91 essentially. That's a challenge. I mean, because you're looking for viewership and clicks in both of y'all's worlds.
Well, thankfully NASCAR seems to serve things up in the silver platter sometimes, right? I mean, there's
like
always
all weekend, you mean?
There's always something interesting, right? But changing the roval, right, and changing the curbing, and you obviously have the driver, the changes of the drivers during the season, right? So there's always something going on to keep fans who have been fans of a long time engaged. I think the challenge is to, you've still got to explain things about rules and stuff, and some people might know them, but other people might not. They might be new, and the rules maybe occasionally change throughout the year and from year to year. So it's even if you're like, oh, I think I know that rule, sometimes, oh, wait, that rule changed, or did that rule change? So it's not difficult, I'd say, to keep people engaged.
Leigh, maybe for the better question for you is, how do you balance talking to somebody that might be watching their first race versus a guy that's been watching NASCAR for 20 years?
Well, the guy who's been watching NASCAR for 20 years is always going to watch.
Yeah.
So the challenge is to getting that person who's channel surfing or looking for something different or intriguing. I think we're all guilty of forgetting why we're there. It's racing, right? There's a race. That's why we're there. We race,
Yeah.
right? And we're entertained by the race. So there's the overarching story, which is who's going to be the champion this year. And then under that umbrella are all the other stories. So it's the story within the story. And I think whether it be grabbing your cell phone and whether you're looking at whatever social media platform you like, you're looking at the most interesting or something that's going to, get your attention and keep you there. And so that's incumbent upon us to tell those stories about, we're all intrigued by human interest, right? So what is Bubba's story? What is Tyler Reddick's story? What is Kyle Busch's story? It's the comeback story, trying to win for 20 years in a row. Or, like you just got to keep throwing those nuggets at people, and some of them, not all of them, some of them will stick, and hopefully they'll stay with the broadcast.
Bob, speaking of that, last night, Alex Bowman, his team, they get DQ'd. We started hearing about it probably 45 minutes prior to him actually getting DQ'd. What was it like at the track when you started hearing it? And what did you do up until the point that you tweeted, he's been DQ'd?
Well, I gotten a text from some people, I would say maybe 30 minutes maybe before the announcement. But look, I've gotten texts before and nothing has happened, right? Because, it's just because somebody isn't necessarily totally clear the first time or clear the first time, that they have their procedures of of checks. So, as they did yesterday, they let them refuel the car. They even let them, they let them purge the water system, right? And add water, which, they don't always do. So, so that stuff takes time. They probably had to go up a chain of command, right? Of, hey, calling this person and that person, and then calling the people at Hendrick and kind of going through everything before they made their decision. So mainly I'm working trying to get a story ready and trying to get everything ready so that in case it does happen, and I'm alerting a lot of people in our offices, people who are doing graphics and stuff like, hey, don't put out this graphic yet, or you may want to start a new points.
Working on a new one.
Start working on a new points graphic. Don't know that it's going to happen, but just a lot of that kind of stuff. A lot of stuff behind the scenes, that we do on Fox, getting ready for various, we have podcasts going on. We have these social posts that we're getting ready to post, just saying, hey, just hold on here until we hear. And, in these situations, I'd say about 50% of the time, the DQ happens, and 50% of the time, NASCAR determines to give either the team the benefit of the doubt, or that they fail weight the first time or height the first time and make it through on the second time.
Here's something really interesting that I don't think enough people give credit or credence to, is that when Bob first started out, it was strictly with a newspaper in Daytona Beach. And so he's on the Fox side. Our Dustin Long or Nate Ryan, started out strictly as journalists, print journalists. Then along comes, in the late 1990s, along comes the internet. Then they become paper and internet journalists. Now these guys, and whether it's on the Fox side or on the NBC side, they've morphed to TV. He's just dropping in like casually, yeah, I got to call the office about graphics and all that. He never thought about graphics. He never thought about TV messaging and all that. And I don't think enough people give enough credit to people like Bob or Dustin Long or Nate Ryan in that kind of genre, because they've morphed. He's on TV now too. He's on social media. He's not just a print journalist. And, I don't go to his side of the world. But these guys are so talented; they're coming to our side of the media, and I don't think they get enough credit for that.
We can be a little bit awky, I mean,
not you, buddy.
Yeah, just me. I can be a little bit awky.
I've never seen you be awkward. Not ever.
Except that one time in Dover. With Tequila Bob. Remember Tequila Bob?
Yeah, when he was telling stories about hickeys and everything
else. Yeah, great.
So Bob, with that said, NASCAR announced last night there is a tolerance of 17 pounds that they give you. So how do you end up, according to the research that you've done this morning, how do you end up over that tolerance?
Well, I guess there's a couple. There's probably two ways. Either you've removed weight sometime between the pre-practice qualifying technical inspection and the time the car goes through inspection post-race, or you've lost the weight unintentionally. So
what do you think as far as next steps go with Hendrick, and if
I think
it'll upheld?
I would think I think Hendrick will appeal because you have nothing to lose. What would tip the scales of an appeal? Did you get that?
Yeah.
Did you get that? Come on.
That was a good one. You got to remember that one.
How about that? I don't know that I would call it a Hail Melon move, but I think it's going to be, unless there's, if 17 pounds fell out of the car during the race, I think, we'd notice. So now look, could there have been, something in NASCAR's procedures or the scales that they could say would have made off? Now look, all the other cars passed tech, so that doesn't necessarily sit in their favor. But I think it's going to be difficult. And look, when crew chiefs and mechanic and technical people I've talked to, they get 17 pounds of tolerance. So just like pit road, you get five miles per hour. You try to find a way to use that. Now, taking 17 pounds out of a car can be a lot more challenging because there's lots of eyes and lots of cameras. But these guys, they know they get it. And so, you had that situation, was a year or two ago. Remember, they took a bunch of wheels at Indianapolis, I think.
Yep.
So teams had been putting different type of air in the tires. There was, for tech, there was no, because you got to change your tires after tech because you're rolling it through the garage. The tires get scraped a little bit. So so they allowed them to change tires. So they were putting different air in the tires, go through tech, make the car heavier. So then, of course, it's going to be a little bit lighter with the air in the regular tires. So, I mean, these teams are smart. They know that there's that tolerance, and if they can find a way to potentially,
like you said,
potentially make the car lighter, they will. And again, we haven't heard from Hendrick. Not going to say that's what they did, but
if there's a 17-pound tolerance, you can guarantee every car that rolled through there last night was 16 pounds light. That's just how smart these teams are. Like that, they're gonna, like you said, they take it. We get a 5 mile an hour tolerance for pit road, and we run to that 5 mile an hour, and you'll see multiple penalties for 0.101 over. You know, so any tolerance, these teams are smart enough, like you said, Bob, that any tolerance they give you, you're going to use up at the maximum.
Leigh, you guys have way more meetings and calls and stuff during the week than a lot of people realize getting ready for the show. So with this Alex Bowman 48 team situation, how much time will y'all spend on that this week to get it ready to set up for the broadcast?
Typically our production calls are on a Tuesday afternoon. There's a lot more. That's just for us, like the producers, they do a lot more than what we do, but it'll be a big topic of discussion. And Jeff Burton and Steve Letarte they'll kind of hold court on that. So our producers will ask them their thoughts on it. Jeff is very tapped into NASCAR and very tight with NASCAR, and he'll know everything that he can that NASCAR will allow him to know, and he'll share that with the group. And then, it's not going to be the story, but it's going to be one of the leading stories. And then they just figure out how much time we'll spend on that in the pre-race show, or countdown to green, and then during our editorial of the show. But the moment the green flag drops, everything changes.
Yeah, not a lot of balance if Hendrick has 4 teams in there. I mean, that's 50% of the makeup of the playoffs. Does it help your story if Penske has 2 versus 1? Because 1 Ford versus 2 Fords,
yeah,
that's a big shift for me as a NASCAR fan, because Ford does have a big allegiance of followers. I've worked for Ford several different times. I mean, the Blue Oval has a lot of clout.
I think it makes it interesting if Joey, as we sit here now, Joey is back in. I think it makes it interesting that you've got a multi-time champion, going for a 3rd championship. He's a big stage player, and that's nothing against Alex Bowman. Alex, will be really upset about missing his opportunity to become a champion. So I think whenever you have big names in for the big moments, that helps. But it's another layer to the story of this year's playoffs, isn't it?
Bob, as Leigh just said, as we sit now, Joey's in. The appeal process usually takes a week, I would always say, but is it going to be?
Yeah, it's going to be. It's an expedited appeal. They'll hear it. I think they're hoping to hear it Wednesday, assuming that there is an appeal. It's typically one person, and it's a final. There's no second appeal on a race disqualification. So now, if this had been a part or piece, they'd have to probably schedule a Wednesday appeal and then potential Friday final appeal to get done before the start of the next race.
We'll know the end result by the time we race this weekend.
Yes, yeah, no, you'll know. You'll know then. You should know before you are on your plane to Las Vegas.
Do you have to stay down here now to cover this appeal, or do you still get to go home?
I still get to go home.
Okay.
So they don't. They used to. We used to hang out outside the R&D center, but now they kind of let the teams drive in. And kind of, or at least they used to let them drive in and park in the back, and they don't even need to hold it at the R&D center. This isn't unless they have the car there. So in case if there was something, I guess they would have the appeals panelists go take a look at the car. But they don't always have to do them at the R&D center.
Looking at the round of 8, are there any surprises, and who do you think the favorites are?
Well, first off, you have the top 7 in points from the regular season are in this, and then Joey Logano, right? I think Brad Keselowski was 8th in the regular season points. He's the only driver from that top 8 who didn't make this round. So I think that makes it. We talk about all the chaos, and yet we have the best drivers from the regular season and a 2-time Cup champion in this round. So I think it's Kyle Larson has 6 wins this year. Nobody has more than 3. He's sitting there saying everybody knows that he can win on any race. Cliff Daniels is sitting there saying, our biggest competition is ourselves. Well,
Wow.
with respect to everybody, he's like, with respect to everybody else, right now we feel that our biggest competition is ourselves. To me, he's the favorite.
I don't think enough people give enough credit to Christopher Bell. I think he's that quiet achiever. And, I love the fact that how honest he was at Kansas, where he made that mistake at the end of stage 1 and stage 2 when he hit the wall. He said that was totally on me. And I just think, he's the only guy who's made the championship for the last 2 years in succession. And I just think the time is now for him.
As fast as he's been at these flat mile ovals, if he gets to Phoenix, he has to be the favorite, in my opinion. I said that on here a couple weeks ago, like that Gateway, Phoenix one, like
New
Hampshire, these flat mile ovals, he's been the guy. Him and Blaney have been the two guys to beat, and he's been, I think, a little bit better than Blaney. So to your point, like he's going into that race. If he can get there, still got to get there. But if he gets there, he's going to be hard to beat.
But if somebody in the round of 8 wins Vegas, and they probably will, they are sitting on a meal ticket to get more weeks of prep for Phoenix than everybody else. We've seen it before. It used to be this race was Martinsville. And whoever won Martinsville, it was like, oh, you better look out when they get to championship weekend.
We say that this race this weekend, we've said it on here before, is maybe the third most important race of the season. Daytona 500 is always going to be the most important to me. Championship race, and then Vegas. Because, like you said, if you win Vegas, you can spend the next 3 weeks simming, doing everything you can for Phoenix versus having to worry about any other race in this round.
I know I'm meant to answer the questions, not ask the questions, but I'm intrigued to know, did you guys enjoy seeing the non-playoff drivers win the first 2 races of the round of 12?
I wish I was one of them, but yes.
I totally did. I think it adds a cool element, and it just shows you. I mean, I told my buddy this past week, I saw a guy named Logan Watson down in Monroe, North Carolina, and I said point blank, the drivers are the best today they've ever been in my lifetime. And it's because they don't have a second job. They do this 7 days a week, and they wake up and go to bed thinking about how am I going to go fast, how am I going to win, and they're training mentally, they're training physically, they're training in simulation. They're unbelievable, and it just goes to show that anybody can win. 30 guys can win any given week.
I was talking about this on the roof yesterday.
31 if you take out Larson.
I was talking about this on the roof yesterday, and we talked about it here a couple weeks ago. SVG in these Xfinity races, nobody progresses more during a race, in my opinion, than SVG. Like, he starts the race 30th, and by the end of stage 1, he's probably 25th, but he's figuring it out. By the end of stage 2, he's 15th. By the end of the race, he's in the top 10. And it's just him learning. We don't have enough practice for him to get this down. I said, that's amazing that he can do that in the Xfinity car. Next year, he's not going to be able to do that. Like, you can't qualify 30th in a Cup race and progress that much through the field because everybody in the Cup field is so good. That field is so much tighter that if you don't have your A game for qualifying, you're going to be buried, I think, all day. And that's just a testament to how talented and how deep that Cup field really is, I think.
We need rookie tests. I'm not saying we need to go back to 7 tests a year per team and the way we used to do it. And I do realize when I say we give a rookie a test that Trackhouse is going to get all the data from the test. I realize all that. But we can't expect an SVG to come along at his age and be able to get in this car and be competitive without more seat time. And there's no way to get it except in real time. And like you said, in the Cup Series, good luck.
Yeah, you're not going to do what you do in Xfinity.
No.
Like, it's not going to happen.
His progression has been pretty astounding, I think, though. You have to realize his level of racing IQ. I mean, that's a guy who's gone and done a round of the World Rally Championship and finished in the top 10. You know, he raced V8 supercars for so long. Now he's in NASCAR. You could put him in anything, and he just loves to drive a car. And I think here in North America, we have so many examples of great drivers who would diverse. You know, Mario Andretti, Tony Stewart, AJ Foyt, whatever. The list goes on. Now in the modern era, Kyle Larson. Shane's cut from that same cloth.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I agree. Of all the personalities you've covered, because you've covered more forms of motorsports than any broadcaster I've ever personally met or been associated with, who is your favorite personality? And I know that's a hard question to put you on the spot, but I mean, you've covered F1, IndyCar, Rally Car, IMSA, obviously NASCAR now.
Marine
You've covered
industry.
motorcycles.
Yep.
Like, holy cow. What's your favorite personality?
Somebody who has some character, somebody who likes to have a laugh. There's big characters out there. You know, Valentino Rossi is one that stands out. But anybody who can laugh at themselves and just, you know, is happy to share their true love of motorsport, whether it's two wheels or four. You know, I'm so lucky to have worked with so many amazing people throughout my career. My little redheaded brother from Tallahassee, Florida, Ricky Carmichael, I get to sit beside for the Supercross season, and we literally are like brothers. We fight and tease each other and have so many laughs. I mean, Ricky's a big character, so yeah, I've been really lucky. I know I'm not giving you a direct answer, but
that's okay. I love hearing all these names
because it is hard. You know, when I was young, when I was in my 20s. Sadly, this person is no longer around. But when I got my big break in television, which before it was called V8 Supercars, it was the Australian Touring Car Championship, and I was in my mid-20s, and I got to work alongside a guy by the name of Barry Sheene, who was a two-time MotoGP world champion. In fact, the last time the UK had a MotoGP world champion, so it was in the mid-70s. And the same time that Barry was the 500cc world motorcycle champion, James Hunt was the Formula One world champion, and they were best mates. And there's actually an interesting documentary there. It's called "When Playboys Ruled the World." They were a couple of rat bags, and they liked having a lot of fun, and that's a pretty interesting documentary. But anyway, I was a kid, and I got to sit beside Barry Sheene, and he kind of you know, taught me about the world of television and business and racing, and he was this global icon and superstar, and I didn't realize what I had sitting beside him, you know, and he helped me make the transition to the UK, to the BBC, and so I've been really fortunate.
Yeah. Bob, I got one more question before we dive into the actual show itself. So along those lines, I remember watching guys, and I hate to call them out, but a guy like Casey Kane come in here and struggle to do media and struggle to be a public speaker. He eventually got really good at it. But have you noticed the drivers are better now when they get here than before, or are they still pretty raw? Because you're making a face like
they're still raw, but it's not their fault. I mean, they've been racing now go-karts and everything. They go into Millbridge at age 5, 6, 7, and to be good, they have to go every week, and they have to focus on racing. And they don't. At least now there's more people their age racing. But you know, once you get to kind of a touring series level, there aren't a lot of people your age to hang out with. Football players and basketball players and baseball players, they're all in the locker room with people their own age. They create their own skills. They become leaders. They're on a bus for 4 hours, and they learn social skills. And here, you know, some of them are being homeschooled, which, you know, you have to be probably, and you're not hanging around people your own age. You're either racing against people who are older than you, who are probably very jealous that you're beating them, or you're hanging out with crew guys who are 20 years older than you and are, you know, just saying, man, I hope this kid doesn't wreck this car, right? Or I hope this kid appreciates it. And so I think it's a challenge to learn the social skills, to learn the skills of, you know, public speaking and being comfortable with yourself in this environment where what you need to do to be great. I mean, to be a great race car driver, you need to be very focused person on the craft. You don't have time to socialize. You know, I mean, how many stories have we heard about? I skipped the prom, or I skipped, you know, going to high school football games because I'm racing every weekend. Well, how do you learn social skills that way? I don't know.
But do you also see, and we've talked about this before, how drivers can't really speak their minds to some extent, and people or teams like TRD and Chevy, they have programs where they can go through media training so they are more polished. Like, do you see that change? Because I don't think that existed in the Casey Kane era, right?
Maybe a little bit. What I was hoping is that now young people their lives are on social media, right? And so they're used to putting everything out there. Like, I'm thinking, man, if we want to put a camera in this person's house, like, they're like, yeah, I mean, I take selfies and film myself all the time. But right now it's still at a point where most of the top young drivers have people doing their social media for them because they're so focused on their racing craft.
You mentioned all the other sports, football, baseball, basketball, soccer, whatever. I watch for the love of the game. When it comes to racing, Leigh, I watch racing probably 60% for the personality and for the relatability. Like it's the story of the driver that I care about as much as I do the racing, which is completely different than other sports for me.
100%. I mean, if there were no drivers in the cars, would you watch?
No.
Of course you wouldn't.
No.
So
On that note, too, I mean, you followed Supercross. I've seen you in the marine industry, things like that, which is where I came from. We complain a lot about, the process that NASCAR has and the challenges and discrepancies, things like that. How similar is it for other sports now that you're ingrained in pretty much everything?
Oh, it's pretty much the same everywhere you go. Yeah, it's pretty much, and the competitors will grumble, and yeah, I mean it's pretty much the same everywhere. I just want to jump back a step to the young drivers and their media savvy. I think a great example right now of incredible maturity and a great communicator and a great ambassador for whatever brand he's representing is Connor Zilic.
It's unbelievable.
You wouldn't like if you played a clip and you said, and don't look at the screen, whoever's listening wouldn't know that he was 18 years old. Yeah. I mean, that kid is the template.
We brought him on here. He's somebody that I met in the off season, and then he won the Rolex. So I called these guys. I went to a group text and said, hey, we got to have the Zilic kid on. They're like, he's not going to fit in with us. He's only 17. And I go, but he's not. I said, trust me, let's give him 30 minutes. And he came on here and he left and he walked out. He did the 30 minutes. He walked out and Brett looked at me and goes, holy that kid's 17 years old.
We weren't even sure if he was allowed to come on the show.
His parents had to sign his waiver. Yeah.
But he's just somebody the other day, Jordan Bianchi sent me a text and it was like, and list give me 5 the best prospects in NASCAR. And he was number 1. And I said, he's like, give me that with a note about each one or whatever. And I just Zilic, total package.
Yep.
Like that's the end all be all. Like that's the guy. You know what I mean? And he's like you said, obviously very, very, very talented race car driver. Obviously road course racing, whatever it is. But he goes and where did he run was it Darlington? Or I forget where he ran. Kansas.
Just ran 4th.
Kansas. And he just top 5. And I'm like, everybody's like, well, we'll see what he does on an oval. I'm like, well, he's going to prove you wrong again. And then that's one side of it. Then he gets out of the car and you're like, I'm not talking to an 18-year-old kid. Like he's unbelievable. Good kid. He's like one of our adopted children on DBC. So
all right, well, get off his jock and let's go to the show.
Hey, the kid's good. Hey, Leigh brought it up.
He's going to laugh at that part. He is a good dude. He's a fun dude to be around. You just don't feel like you're around an 18-year-old.
Agreed. All right, we'll chat more Roval when we head into Spot On, Spot Off. First topic, just feet away from taking the white flag in Saturday's Xfinity race, NASCAR threw the caution, setting up an overtime restart. Spot on, spot off, Leigh.
Spot off. I think there was enough time for NASCAR to make that call a little bit earlier. It's always easy to Monday quarterback, and I don't want to be too harsh to NASCAR, but I think there was enough time to make that call earlier than what they did.
I talked to Parker yesterday in the garage. He's obviously wandering around. I said, let me give you a big hug. And I said, how many people have offered you hugs today? Because we all love Parker. Parker's a good dude, he's a very good race car driver. And he said, I just came out of a meeting with NASCAR and I said, do you feel better or worse at this point? And he said, I actually feel better. And their side of it is they don't watch the broadcast. Like we all see on TV. Like the way I saw it was the car buried on the big screen. Honeyman, I think it was, just had a left front flat, locked the brakes up, buried. I mean, you couldn't get any more buried than Leland Honeyman was in that barrier. But everybody's like, we see it on TV. And NASCAR said, we can't watch the broadcast. And the reason they can't watch the broadcast, and maybe this you lead to TV, you might know this, but he says if we're watching a broadcast and the broadcast so happens to show a replay, and it's a replay of a wreck, all of a sudden we want to, and we've done it before, me and you, I'm sure I've done it, like you're spotting the race and you look up and there's a replay of a wreck on TV and you're like, oh, no, never mind, that's a replay. They said that by the time they confirmed it, it was 20-something seconds, and when they confirmed it, they hit the button, and it was whatever it was. But I agree with you. We were on the radio, the leader was probably just coming out of the backstretch chicane, and I said, there's a car buried. There's going to be a caution. And I said, no, wait. They're waiting. They're waiting. They're still waiting.
They're also scanning spotters.
They're make plays, not excuses, is what's on my son's mirror.
It's spot off because take Parker Kligerman out of it. It shouldn't take 20 seconds to get a caution for somebody who's buried in the tires. I mean, now, granted, I think on TV you kind of saw him moving, but you don't. I mean, if a car is buried,
he wasn't getting out of there.
Yeah, and so whatever the process is. It needed to improve. And actually before the Cup race, you could hear them talking to spotters, their officials, and say, okay, where can you see? Tell me what you can see. I think to make sure that they had the whole track covered. Because again, wherever Parker Kligerman is or the impact on the race, it shouldn't take 20 seconds to throw a caution for a car buried that deep.
As you guys know, often a positive comes out of a negative. And even though he's one of my broadcast teammates, I don't know what the circumstances are around Parker deciding not to race full-time anymore. But if I'm somebody, a sponsor or a team, and I'm on the fence about my 2025 plans, that drive that he put in the other day gets him a drive in 2025.
Absolutely.
That was the drive, even like aside from his truck win at Mid-Ohio, that was the best drive he's ever had in his career.
You're watching, I'm assuming you watched the race, but so the last 7 laps, I would say. Once Sam gets a second, I'm like, oh, he's gonna eat Parker up here. He's got fresher tires. He's gonna wear him out. And Parker defended like nobody I've ever seen before for 5 or 6 laps, whatever it was. Like just you could tell they were just the two of them were just driving the out of their race cars, and that's like the most purest form of motorsport for me is. Like this, just watching these two guys, they are getting after it. There's nothing left on the table. Parker's racing for his life. Sam's racing for his life. Like that was the best 5 laps you're going to watch in a long time.
The lights are controlled by the tower, and it's like Buffalo Wild Wings was running the lights. You know, it's like we got last call, and it's like, oh no, let's get everybody to stick around for another 30 minutes. Boom, we got overtime. So it was like watching a real life, Buffalo Wild Wings ad campaign moment. But I do hate it for Parker. I mean, that's a heartbreaking way to lose it.
But shout out to him though, because he saw how close he was on the broadcast when they interviewed him, and he handled it very well.
I can promise you, in the back of his mind, he had to keep telling himself, I work for NBC tomorrow, and I'm on the broadcast for NASCAR. I work for NBC tomorrow, and I can't say anything stupid right here because he's that intelligent of a person. I would have lost my mind.
He's very measured. He knows how to play the game, as you would say. Like he would. I'm sure he would love to get out there and just MF everybody on the planet. But like you said, he's also looking for a job, so he can't get out there and bury everybody and then make himself look bad after something like that.
I guess Bob and Leigh, for you guys, knowing a topic like this, when you're on the broadcaster and you're writing a story, obviously NASCAR is a partner of yours and a partner of of the company you work for. How do you handle constructive criticism versus being supportive of what they're doing when they make a wrong call?
Well, first off, you ask what their side is, and you try to present both sides. You try to ask people around if there's a way to do things better. I mean, our job mainly is to explain to fans why something happened and, potentially what can be improved to change it if anything needs to be improved. And that's, I think, the main thing is try not to make it personal, right? We know all the people who are in the tower. We see them every week. They see us every week, and so I think if you can keep it to a point where it's constructive and it is, as a journalist, you always believe that discussion and openness and transparency and debate leads to improvement. Now there will always be another side where it says, well, maybe we shouldn't talk about this in public or that in public. But in my role is to have it being talked about in public and just trying to be as fair as possible. And as Leigh talked about earlier, when you go from newspapers where you're a 24-hour news cycle to now TV and social media where it's a 24-second news cycle, that does present some more challenges to it.
And Casey, you have to remember and acknowledge the weight and responsibility of live. Like live, there's no do-overs. Live is you get one chance, and that's either in broadcast or in race control or wherever. When you're live, that's it. You don't get a chance to go off and make another coffee and delete that paragraph or whatever. Let's do a second take. Let's do a third take. The weight and the responsibility of live is pretty heavy. So
There's a reason we're taped.
And Olympics this year,
Sure.
like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm watching the same race you are live, and I thought what you said was what I thought. I thought the Jamaican sprinter won the race.
Yep.
And you said it like that, and obviously that's not the case. But how do you deal with that? Or I hate to say backlash because I get all that too. But like, same thing. You're watching it, and you are calling that in the moment. Like, how does that work for you know?
So it was, you have to, as a broadcaster, as a play-by-play, calling the action, you have to trust yourself, you have to trust your eyes, and you have to trust your instinct. And, throughout everything that I've done, it's always worked. And I missed it by 0.005 of a second.
Yeah, what the
so, I've spoken about this with my bosses. If I'd said Noah Lyles had won, it would have been the call of the century. But I said what everybody thought, where the cameras were going. The year before in Budapest, I called Sha'Carri Richardson becoming the world champion by 0.07 of a second, just with my eyes, right? I called it, and that worked. And when, I've been criticized by people Monday quarterbacking saying you shouldn't have said anything. You should have said it was too close to call, but that's not my style. I trust myself. I trusted my eyes, and I missed it by the blink of a human eye. 0.005 of a second, and I have to wear that responsibility for the rest of my life. I got absolutely slaughtered in the media, and it was pretty hard to wake up the next day and put my clothes on and go to work. But that's what you had to do, and I'm not ashamed of that call. I made a mistake. I'm human. I was bold, and I got it wrong. And that's exactly what I said in my statement on social media. My support team, from our president of NBC Sports down, the entire executive team, all of the producers were incredibly supportive because it was a bloody hard moment. It's pretty hard to wake up and you're being attacked by every media organization and every Monday expert who doesn't know what it's like to sit there. By the way, as close as I'm sitting to Bob, I was sitting with a legend, my teammate Addo Bolden, who's won 4 Olympic medals in 100 and 200. He thought the Jamaican won as well, but I was the one who said it. And so I have to wear that weight of responsibility, and I had to take the punches, but it made me better. And as a father of 2 boys, I use that as an example of rebounding and showing that you can turn a positive after a negative. And I've learned from that, and I've called some close races since. And it was tough.
Yeah, I couldn't. It's just I retweeted it. Like, I was like, if you guys are talking about this, you've never met Leigh, you never spent a minute with him. Like, he's calling it. Like, don't say anything. Well, that'd be exciting finish. They come to the finish line. They go, like, is that what you want? Like, I expect you to make that call. And like I said, I'm watching the race the same time you are, and I'm like, obviously we're all in this room probably cheering for the American, and I'm like, damn, just lost. And then what transpired next. But yeah, it was hard to see, knowing you and having so much respect for you, knowing that's just your style.
Agreed. And I mean, if you were Brett, you would just block them all. So thank you for handling it well. All right, moving on. Spot on, spot off. During stage 1, Bubba Wallace was issued a course-cutting penalty in the front stretch chicane, while William Byron was not penalized after using what appeared to be the same line just 2 cars back from Wallace. Freddie, what do you think?
So, as much as, and you talk about tendencies, and part of our job is to know the tendencies of the drivers around us. That's what we study film for, is to know what these guys do in certain situations. We also know that about NASCAR. So NASCAR came out, they removed that turtle Sunday morning, and then also held a meeting with the drivers and crew chiefs, or maybe just the crew chiefs, and it was, we are now going to enforce this very strictly. The track limits are going to be enforced. So I told Bubba what that means before the race. I said, they are going to call penalties in the first 10 laps of the race on non-playoff drivers. That's how they're going to do this. They're going to set the tone that they're making this call. It's not going to be somebody that they can negatively affect in a really bad way. It's going to be guys that, I don't want to say don't matter, but there's guys that it'll be less of a harsh penalty. You saw it in the first 5 laps. Eric Jones gets popped. we get popped. Truex, I think, was the next one after us to get popped. Then there was never a call the rest of the day. And I literally watched Byron go through there right behind us and do the same. And Bubba, listen, to Bubba was wrong 100%. Like, he was pushing the limits, and I had told him 3 or 4 times on the radio, like, you got to be better through that chicane. I said, you don't want to say on the radio because now you're drawing attention to yourself of, hey, don't watch us. But I was like, hey, you got to, be mindful of, you got to have your left side tires on that paint.
Bob.
I mean, I would say spot on because, it's ball strike, and sometimes you're gonna call it's gonna be a ball on one and a strike on another, and I think that's the way this is. And NASCAR tried to show a photo where both Byron's left side wheels were on the red and white at the same time, so they're like, so we didn't call it there. Bubba, I think, was a little bit further inside.
Bubba was definitely further.
Was further inside. So, I mean, look, they're not gonna. They had told the teams that kind of a tie goes to the runner, and
they told us tie goes to the booth.
Is that what they told you?
That's what they tell us. The messaging we got was tie goes to the booth.
So, I don't. If you don't have cameras there, to officiate it, like you would probably. I think they said they put up some cameras, but if you don't really have a system like they do on pit road to officiate it. If they had penalized Byron, I'd say spot on too. It's one of those calls that's just in the moment. I'm not gonna bash NASCAR on it too much because it's so close, so close that that I just think it's a difficult area to officiate.
I don't want to see officiating there. Like, I want the track limits to be the track itself and not a human eye making a call. That out of bounds should have a penalty. When you hit, you don't question, did a driver hit a wall or not hit a wall? They hit a wall. They're risking damaging their car. So for me, it's not a NASCAR thing. It is a track limits thing. And I just want to take NASCAR out of the equation of, at their discretion, was it a penalty or not?
Leigh.
Yeah, what they said.
All right, I support that. Moving on, the updated Roval layout was an improvement to the old, with the new Turn 7 being a good passing opportunity. This was the best road course race of the season. Spot on, spot off. Brett, always Mr. Optimistic.
Well, it's definitely not the best road course race of the season for me. And I do think that Turn 7 was the only real passing zone unless you had a superior car to the car in front of you or on fresh tires. You were able to, I'm going to use the Lee word, overtake somebody. I don't think I've ever said that word. I usually say pass. But Turn 7 was an improvement. We can't let them go through that backstretch chicane as fast as they're going through there because we need that to be, if we're going to stay on the Roval, Lee, I think we got to make that be a passing zone.
Who said that was the best road course of the year? Were they not watching Watkins Glen?
Yeah.
It was
Jay.
Jay felt it was the best one.
Hey, he used to work at Fox.
Take that for what it's worth.
It was spot on as far as the changes were improvements for sure. I liked. We even discussed in our production meeting before the race, keep an extra close eye on Turn 7 because we made such a big deal at Talladega at 190 miles an hour 4 wide. At one stage, there were 4 wide in Turn 7. Watch that, and it was almost every lap they were 2 and 3 wide through Turn 7. So, I think that section where you come through Turn 5 and up and over the hill and then down to 6 and then leading into 7, I think that was very inviting, and I think that worked instead of that really cut back to the right. I think that opened it up. It flowed better. I think there were positives all around. So spot on from me.
I think that there was so much negativity leading up to it. So much drivers were so concerned. Teams were so concerned. They walked the track last week or so, and they were all worried about just the big dive bomb. And maybe Saturday I thought was a good illustration of it. Parker and Sam are battling, and you make that lead car make a decision. Do I want to block the bottom? And as long as Sam pulled off a move that was unbelievably talented, but at the same time he could have been the guy that just lined Parker up and shipped him out of the way, and he didn't. He knew that he could go in there once Parker shouted his entry up. And as a lead guy, I don't even know how. You have 2 options. Parker decided to block a little bit. If he moves up, maybe Sam just ships it in there and door slams him and takes the lead. Who knows? But Sam did it the right way, and it was very respectful, and it made for a great finish on Saturday. For that reason, we never got that. Kyle was killing everybody on Sunday, so we never got to that point. But it wasn't as big of a show as everybody thought it was going to be.
I would say spot on for the fact that the drivers were definitely being beat up on Saturday, going over that curbing and then changing it so that that they were not beat up as much, which kind of created the earlier discussion of track limits. But at least NASCAR listened to the drivers, listened to their concerns, and certainly there was a feeling, well, just don't go over them then. But they know that drivers are going to do what they need to do to make speed, and made the change.
We've said this before about the drivers. Like, you got to protect them from themselves a lot of times. Like, I get it. Like, a lot of drivers were talking about like Bubba was literally flying through the air during qualifying, and he's like, man, that hurt. Kind of, that was a rough ride. And a lot of drivers are saying this is rougher than Watkins Glen ever was. But if I told you can gain 1/10 of a second by doing it, you're all going to do it. So it's like you have to at some point protect these guys from themselves, and luckily they made a change over there.
All right. When we come back, it's time for Reaction Theater.
Now it's time for our favorite segment, Reaction Theater, where it's your turn to be heard. Reaction Theater is brought to you every week by Consumer Cellular.
Consumer Cellular has the same fast, reliable nationwide coverage as leading carriers, but with plans as low as $20 a month.
If you're paying too much for wireless service, pump the brakes and switch to Consumer Cellular. They offer big wireless coverage without the big wireless costs.
And now, once you turn 50, you can get 2 lines of unlimited talk, text, and data for $30 each. That's $60 a month.
So why keep spending more than you have to? Be a winner with Consumer Cellular and call 1-888-FREEDOM or visit consumercellular.com.
This rate plan requires 2 lines of service, age verification, and credit approval, subject to system area limits, taxes, and fees apply.
So I'm sitting here waiting for Bathurst qualifying. Sorry, Bathurst. And I want to give my Leigh Diffey impression. I think it's something like, "It's a big one, Arnar."
Hey guys, this one's for Leigh Diffey. I think he's doing a pretty damn good job, but I gotta say, I had to listen to Boogity Boogity for way too friggin' long in my life. And now this let's go bullshit. I'm sorry, but this isn't a car rental ad. So we gotta come up with some new material for restarts.
What do you say during restarts? I haven't got.
I don't know. I don't know.
At least they hadn't made it personal yet, because they make it personal with me and Freddie. They call us fat asses and gap tooth and balding. Like,
You bring that on yourself, but I actually don't notice it, and I watch the broadcast every week, so
Yeah.
you're fine.
I don't know. Hey, I couldn't grow a beard in time, but at least I wore a cap.
You
know?
did.
The guys with the beards are the ones who get us in trouble, so
Okay.
you're...
Who?
Last year, I asked if the studio had lights, and Bob told us they were boobs. I have a new question for you, Bob. Will the DBC studio use wet weather tires if it rains?
Oh, no.
Bob,
I don't think these guys are good on slicks everywhere. They're that talented. They don't need the wet weather tires. They can just go out. Look, they crash just as good on the slicks. I wouldn't waste my money on wet weather tires with them.
Yeah, I agree. I'm not gonna say anymore.
All right, listen. I came all the way from Long Island to Charlotte Motor Speedway to ask Freddie Kraft about the Columbia story, and I found him after his little appearance on the backstretch at Charlotte Motor Speedway, and I asked him to give me the Columbia story, and he went ahead and ignored me. I then found him again and asked him one more time and name-dropped a good friend of his, and he still declined to give me the Columbia story. Freddie Kraft is a fraud.
Ooh.
He named out my buddy Eric Zay, and guess what, buddy? You're never hearing the Columbia story. Get over it.
just find me. I'll give it to you. Freddie don't remember it anyway.
I was gonna say I wasn't even there. Lee, me and Brett had a help with his. Went to school in Columbia, South Carolina, and we went down there one day, and it turned out worse for one of us than the other. I'll say that.
You did get to meet Dawn Staley. That's a positive.
I did get to meet Don Staley that day.
Hey, Brett, you fat mother about Alex John Bowman in the round of 8. Shut the up! You, dude! Don't say about Alex Bowman anymore, man. He's done shut your big fat ass up 3 times now. Keep that mother name out your mouth. Have a good one.
Should we tell him?
Well, I'm sure you guys are pretty happy with yourselves now that 48 has been disqualified so that you can continue to say that the Joey Logano even year bullshit stands. Might as well add Jeff Gordon back to the playoffs. I'm so mad right now. I'm spitting mad, if you can't tell.
Racing gods have ruled in Joey Logano's favor, and now he's coming to rule you all.
Well, I was going to call in and basically rub it in about Alex Bowman making the round of 8 and say you guys for not believing him, but instead just found out he got DQ'd. So I guess it's time to take some edge off. Take a nice warm bath, got the tub filling up, the candles lit, and the toaster ready. Terrible day to be a Bowman fan.
The toaster ready. At one point, did we never say we don't believe in Alex Bowman? Did that ever come out of our
I think we
mouth?
need to call his crew chief and ask him the secret of losing 17 pounds.
I can't believe your fat ass didn't believe in him and got him to
that's all on me.
That first call, he regrets that first call. I guarantee.
Yeah, good job playing that with Jay. I'm glad.
Yeah, good.
Every
good
week
pull
he calls
there.
in.
He calls
in every week.
Parker Kligerman, baby. Hell yeah. Finally, dude. Parker Kligerman, baby.
That
was bull. That needs to be a caution before they get the white flag. We could have had a green-white checkered in this Xfinity race. What the hell, man?
These are quick calls.
NASCAR. You just 2022 All-Star race, Parker Kligerman, one of the most personable people in the Xfinity series, for Sam Mayer. Like, I have so many emotions right now, and I'm so pissed off. I made 2 calls now. They need to be played in order. We need a chronological timeline. You, TJ. I love you, Brett.
You, TJ.
Well, God, I should have stayed in front of the TV. I apologize for about them calling that race, because apparently it really was a green, white, checkered. Woo! Go NASCAR! I love you. Holla.
Call back. My favorite part is like they decide by personality who they let win the race. You know, Parker's a nice guy. That Sam Mayer. We're gonna throw the yellow. You're like, that doesn't happen. I hope it doesn't happen.
Wow, NASCAR just stole Parker Kligerman's first career win. Who's up there hitting the buzzer? Steve Harvey? What is this family feud? It is ridiculous. No wonder Carl Edwards retired.
Man, I don't know who got blue balled even worse today. The South Carolina fans and really quarterback threw it 80 yards out of bounds on a 2-point conversion, or Parker Kligerman and the 48 team whenever NASCAR threw the caution about, a pube hair before the start-finish line on the white flag.
Pube hair?
Yeah, I'm sorry. Did NASCAR have Stevie Wonder as the honorary race official for today? Why do they wait 3 years to throw a caution for the 42? It makes no sense.
3 years is a long time.
I tell you what, if I was Parker Kligerman, I'd walk right in the NASCAR hauler and just start whipping ass. Just everybody in there, just start whipping their ass. Hell, if I was within 1,000 miles of Charlotte, North Carolina, I'd walk in there myself and start whipping ass.
That's a
Sam Mayer gets out of the car and he thinks, the good Lord, maybe he should thank NASCAR. This is bullshit. Can't even stand the kid smiling on TV and he has nothing to do with it.
Listen, don't hate Sam Mayer. Sam Mayer did everything right in that end of that race. He could have done a lot of things wrong and wrecked Parker and took chances that I've seen him take before. He did everything right and did it clean and did it the right way. And I'm not 100% sure that without that caution, he was still going to pass Parker. So I think the fastest car won the race that day.
Well, the caution was going to come out, though.
Yeah, oh, for sure.
So the question is, would Parker still be leading when the caution does come out if they take the white? But to your point, Sam's approach once Parker blocked the bottom to late apex that corner like he did and pull it off without, if he touched him, he barely touched him.
Brett, what the happened to the Cox? Like they had the game won.
QB choked twice.
The good one?
Yeah, we only got one good one.
He looks like Urkel?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he gone.
All right.
Well, he ain't gone, but yeah, we choked.
I'm sorry, Jay, go ahead.
Well, you can take the kid out of the truck series, but you can't take the truck series out of the kid. Kamikaze Carson's out here running over everybody, ruining days left and right. What an idiot.
Carson didn't make a single friend yesterday. I watched, I don't know how much it came across on the broadcast, but he was very aggressive all day yesterday. I think there was one big incident in 7, right?
He was adventurous.
That's one way to put it.
I said it at one stage to Jeff Burton. I said, Jeff, think about the moves you made when you were 21.
But isn't he good for you?
He is. He's been entertaining for sure. I mean, I think when Phoenix is done, he's going to take some time to reflect, and there's going to be highs and lows on the season. But I think for a kid, clearly he's fast, he's got talent. I think there'll be a period of reflection and self-analysis, and he'll come back better next year.
Y'all messed up. Y'all said you could send photos of this number. Y'all are in for a heap of trouble. There's some freaky ass fans out there. Watch yourself. Turn it off. All right, bye.
Jay, did you? How many texts did you get this week, Jay?
We got about 75 texts.
How many of them were explicit photos?
I got a lot of pictures of people's pets.
Pets. Oh, pets.
Pets.
I got you.
Yeah. Nothing explicit. But I will say that
it's coming.
It's probably coming after this. But there were a surprising number of good texts. Went back and forth with a lot of people.
Dalton, how do we share these texts?
We got to put them out on social.
Dalton's like, I don't know. We're not.
Can we share these texts?
Legal needs to probably be involved.
Let's call HR and see how we can do this.
Oh, I love how animated our listeners are.
The reaction theater is the best part of this show, just because we get to hear from everybody, and then my favorite part's next. But
don't forget our number 704-802-9572 to leave us a message.
Consumer Cellular is the official wireless partner of Brad Keselowski, RFK Racing, and the 6 Car. If they can count on Consumer Cellular, so can you.
Brad Keselowski and RFK Racing know speed, and that's just what you get with Consumer Cellular. Have you seen Brad's Consumer Cellular convertible? A symbol of savings, you might say. That thing is awesome.
Consumer Cellular has award-winning 100% U.S.-based customer service center, so you can always get the help you need. It's like having your pit crew right there when you need them.
Consumer Cellular has the same fast, reliable, nationwide coverage as leading carriers, but with plans starting as low as $20 a month.
There are no activation fees and no contracts. Consumer Cellular customers stay because they want to, not because they have to. They don't need to trap their customers.
You can even try Consumer Cellular for 30 days risk-free. If you don't love it, cancel it, but they bet you'll love it. If you're paying too much for wireless service, pump the brakes and switch to Consumer Cellular. They offer big wireless coverage without the big wireless cost.
And now, once you turn 50, you can get 2 lines of unlimited talk, text, and data for $30 each. That's only $60 a month. So why keep spending more than you have to?
Be a winner with Consumer Cellular and call 1-888-FREEDOM or visit consumercellular.com. This rate plan requires 2 lines of service, age verification, and credit approval. Subject to system and area limits. Taxes and fees apply.
Time for Ask DBC, another way you can send us your thoughts. This first question is from Matthew. Lee, what motorsports event have you not commented yet that you would love to?
Daytona 500.
That's a very easy answer for you, huh?
Yep.
Quick answer. I love it.
Well, it's right up there on the list.
So
the only form of motorsport that I haven't done is NHRA. I've done everything else. But the one big marquee event that I haven't done is the Daytona 500. So I'd love to do it.
In the pantheon of prestigious races, where do you? I don't want to get in trouble with the NASCAR fans. I think, in my opinion, and maybe back this up, Indy 500 is probably the most prestigious race in the world, and then it's the Daytona 500. Like, you feel the same? I mean, I know you like Bathurst and all that stuff, but like I feel like those are the 2 main.
Yeah, I mean, there is nothing, and it's no disrespect to anybody, because it's not even, in my mind, it's not even an arguable point. There is nothing in the world like the Indianapolis 500. That's why it is the greatest spectacle in racing. To see in excess of 300,000 people in the one place is just extraordinary. And I've had a lot of visitors come from overseas and come to the 500, and they're just they can't forget what's going on track. They just can't believe the human spectacle. And then the Daytona 500, which I've been fortunate enough to go to as a fan just once. I'd love to go back next year. 24 Hours of Le Mans, where there's probably 200,000 people there, is extraordinary. Monaco Grand Prix is special in its own way. The people watching and car watching and boat watching is pretty crazy. And then the Bathurst 1000, which just happened last weekend.
Yeah, we're going to bring Brett's pontoon to Monaco next year, I think.
Yeah, it'll look good out there. My little 18-foot pontoon boat with a 90-horsepower motor on the back.
Do you want me to tell you a story that is true, that we used to do, that the viewers didn't realize that we did? We would do the pre-race show sitting up here like we are on it was called the Prince Rainier Quay, which is like where the entrance to the harbour from the Mediterranean. We'd be under this kind of marquee and with Monaco in the background, and we would do the pre-race show. And we would pre-record one of the segments, and David Hobbs and Steve Matchett were released, and I would do the last segment by myself, and then I would run. But where I would run was down the stairs to a boat, to a tender, and we would go across Monaco Harbour to the commentary booth in the space of an ad break. And one year, the boat didn't come for me. And I almost missed the start of the Monaco Grand Prix. And it was interesting. They were fun days at work.
What was the panic level?
It was big.
How do you describe to folks in Australia the diversity of the NASCAR schedule? Because we have to be the most diverse scheduling presenter in all of motorsports, right?
Yeah, I mean it's extraordinary. I don't think people probably a better person to ask is Shane Van Gisbergen, who's just come from supercars and is now living the NASCAR dream, and he's loving it so much for the simple fact that he's racing every week. That's what he loves most about it, because the supercar schedule is spread out, in my opinion, way too long with too few events. And of course, the economics play a role in that. But Shane's loving it so much because of the diversity and because of just the frequency. He's in a car every week, and that's the great part about it. But I mean, until you have been as a fan, or for us, we're lucky enough to work in the industry to experience the NASCAR schedule, it's quite hard to believe, really.
Matthew also asked a question to Bob. You've covered NASCAR for over 30 years. Did you think you'd do it this long? And what are some of your favorite memories?
Well, I don't think you could ever say that you're going to be in the same industry for 30 years covering the same thing, because usually it gets chosen for you. So I've been very fortunate, and my memories go back before covering NASCAR. As a kid, I moved to Indianapolis when I was 10. And you talk about the Indianapolis 500. Can I plug that? It's coming to Fox next year. Sorry.
Awkward.
Leigh, you can punch him in the face.
Thanks, Paul.
But to kind of describe, I mean, what Leigh was saying, when you're a kid in elementary school choir, you learn Back Home Again in Indiana. So when they sing that before the race, that's just not some song. That's something that you grew up doing. I was in the Boy Scouts, and we set up chairs for the parade that they do the day before the race. So you saw all those drivers. You knew their faces. You didn't need a fire suit to know who they were. And so it is just totally ingrained in that community. And people, that race has, this will be 109 years of history, and there are people who've been going there, tickets passed down from generation to generation. I was not. I think I did go. I moved to Indiana in 1979. I think we went in 1980. And
are you going next year?
I don't know yet. So
you look like you want to.
Hey, I grew up. Bob wants to do Bob's thoughts from the front stretch of Indiana.
I mean, look, I joke that as a teenager, apologies to my high school teachers, but I learned as much about biology and the human body standing in turn one watching the Indianapolis 500 as I did in school. I mean, it's a cultural experience there like no other. So those are, as far as NASCAR, I mean, look, I don't think, Dale Jr. winning in 2001 at Daytona has to be, the most kind of emotional moment. There's certainly a mix of sad and happy memories of that day, but being there for that event was something that I don't think you could ever forget. You had the Tony Stewart rally there, the him Carl Edwards battles were, during that championship season were
How about all the fights that you were right in the middle
yes,
of?
I have been in the middle of some fights and everything as well. So a little bit of everything.
This next one is from Alex. With the Bathurst 1000 happening over the weekend, if Leigh could pick 2 drivers from each manufacturer to take part in a wild card entry, who would he pick?
Like from NASCAR to go to Bathurst?
Let's go that one.
I'll tell you who one of the first people that I ever spoke to here about supercars was Austin Dillon. And Austin just had such a passion to race a supercar. So maybe put him there for Chevy. Can I take 2 from Chevy? How could you not? How could you not want to put Kyle Larson in a supercar, right? For how he just loves driving all different types of cars and don't know. I think your man. I think Bubba would really love it because the track is. When we went back in the good old days of Speed Channel, Mike Joy, Darrell Waltrip, myself, and Calvin Fish, we went and covered the Bathurst 1000 live in 2011. And I'll never forget the look on the faces of particularly DW and Calvin as former drivers when they saw just how narrow the track was and how fast the cars go across a narrow strip of asphalt across the top of the mountain. They couldn't believe it, because it's a normal road that gets turned into a racetrack. So I think Bubba would really enjoy that.
I remember DW did like a ride along, right?
Yeah, with Jason Bright.
He was screaming the whole time.
Yeah. He called it a geological oddity. So I don't know. There's a few drivers for you. I guess I didn't choose a Ford driver. I don't know. Blaney is Ryan's a student of the sport and loves the history of the sport. So maybe Ryan Blaney.
I like it. Next one is from Aaron. Which tracks have been on your bucket lists since before you worked in motorsports? This one's for Bob and Leigh, obviously.
Go, Bob.
I guess are we talking about ones that now we haven't been to? Before I worked in motorsports, I guess I was living in Indianapolis. So,
Chili Bowl.
Yeah. I mean, you hear so much about Le Mans like that. Like to me, that would be probably the one that I would just want to see and experience once.
Leigh.
I would say before I was working in motorsports, I'd say Indianapolis for sure, and been lucky to go there many times and be involved in the event. Maybe on the still to visit list. Well, now I'm living my dream of checking off all the American tracks that I've never been to, and especially this year, like Talladega was mind blowing. That was something else. And I didn't even get to experience the Boulevard. So. That's still on the to-do list, but that just to go there first thing in the morning and the sun was coming up and there was nobody there and to stand on pit lane and look at the grandstands and the enormity of it, that was pretty amazing. And even though I called Formula One for many years, I've still never been to Spa, so I'd love to go to Spa in Belgium.
Oh, interesting. That is a good one. Leigh, Bob, should we kick things off with any idiots you have on your list?
So we usually call somebody an idiot. It's not really an idiot. It's somebody that
it's lighthearted. Like mine's this week is going to be whoever put the ARCA brakes on Tyler Reddick's car because he struggled a couple of times piling into folks and wrecking Daniel Hemrick. I mean, it's pretty hard to hit a car and get your rear wheels completely off the ground.
And Brett, my idiot is you for calling him out when I don't think you'd be able to do it much better if you were in that situation.
Okay.
I don't know whether...
Call somebody an idiot, Bob. Just go for it.
It's almost like a group of people. This is what I think was...
The whole DBC cast.
This is what I think was idiotic. We did give kudos to NASCAR for making that change to the front stretch, but couldn't have there been a practice day? Like it's this to people who are like, hey, let's go, let's change the track. We're trying to create chaos, but we know that we've had issues with bumpers before or with curbing before. Let's have a practice day. And if you had a practice day, then you could have changed the course and then everybody could have at least had a little bit of practice over what they actually raced on. And I mean, in the end, did it make a huge difference? No, but I just think when you are going to an elimination race and you change the course before the start of it with no practice, just in the eyes of a competition, that just doesn't seem right.
I can't name mine because I don't know her, but it was the woman in the white Cadillac Escalade who wouldn't let me out of the parking lot yesterday at Charlotte Motor Speedway, who didn't understand a 1-for-1. You know, one car goes, let somebody in. One car goes, let somebody in. She was determined that I wasn't going to get out of time on yesterday.
Oh, first time on the show, and you've got it.
If you drive a white Escalade and you block Leigh in, go yourself. I don't think I have an idiot. I can't remember. I don't
You're
know.
just in a great mood.
I usually have a list. Yeah, I'm an idiot.
I have a buzz from smelling you for the last hour.
I was up till 3 a.m., so maybe I'm the idiot for coming here. I'll call my buddy Brian. My buddy Brian's here. He's an idiot. He stayed up with me. So, yeah, but no, I don't think I really have. I mean, there's the guys I watched yesterday, namely probably the 77 and the 99 looked like pinballs for a lot of it. I know Bubba kind of locked the brakes up and launched the 99 over the backstretch chicane a little bit, and I guess they thought we wrecked them. But yeah, they looked like they were kind of pinballs all day yesterday. So maybe they're my wooden idiot this week.
All right, we're going to talk Vegas before Bob has to bolt. Bob's important. He's got to go do real TV.
Well, to help with my DVC picks, Bob, who are you picking to win Vegas?
Well, you should pick Kyle Larson, right? He's won the last 2 races there, right?
He's finished top 2 for the last 5.
Yeah.
And I think he's won every stage in the race the last 2.
Yeah.
So he's pretty damn good there.
But
what do you expect the race to be like? Anything in particular?
Oh, that's a great question. I expect it to be like similar Vegas races. I do think that you can look at Kansas, most recent mile and a half, and take maybe a little bit from there. So, but I'll be looking for the guys like Christopher Bell, the William Byrons, the ones that you feel like, okay, do they need to get, and really Ryan Blaney too, because I feel like Ryan Blaney hasn't totally hit the stride that he had at this time last year, and obviously these are the races to pick it up.
Lee, have you been to this track before?
I have, but not for a race. Yeah, so it's another new one for me. So really looking forward to it. I think Bob's point on Blaney is really valid. Blaney's in the round of 8 and he's had 7 DNFs. I mean, he's yet to be allowed to be released, kind of thing. And so I think from an entertainment standpoint, from a broadcast standpoint, I think it would be, I know it's an uphill climb at the moment for them, but I think it'd be something special if the 11, if Hamlin did, because we're stuck in this regular conversation mode about what's wrong with the 11, what are they doing, and we default to Atlanta and that strategy of sitting at the back. And wouldn't it be refreshing to see him up front and kind of putting all those stories to the side? So
there was a point in the season he looked to be the favorite and one of the fastest, but I don't know how you don't side with Larson.
Yeah,
you're good here, right? Bubba's good at Vegas.
Yeah. I mean, we're good everywhere, bud.
Hey,
listen. I don't ever try to sing Bubba's praises on here. I like to give all the time. It is unbelievable how much he has improved his road racing savvy, whatever you want to call it. Like we used to dread road courses. Like we'd
go to Sonoma and you'd wreck 3 times a lap.
Yeah, we used to dread it, and then now it's become commonplace where he's going to be in the top 5 or top 10 of practice. He's going to be running yesterday. We were probably a top 10 speed car, and if he doesn't make 2 mistakes, he's going to run about 4th. He blew the backstretch chicane, had to do a stop and go, cost him 3 or 4 spots. We ended up, I don't even know, 8th or 9th, whatever it was. But 2 years ago, before, and it's not a lot of. I know Reddick's probably made our cars better. When you have a guy that knows what he needs on a road course, it's going to elevate your whole program, just car-wise. And I'm sure Bubba can look at some of his SMT traces and learn a lot too. But the cars are better. But to go, we couldn't run top 25 at a road course 3 years ago. And he's now just improved so much.
He told me at Bristol that, because we were talking about when he went to the Rolex 24 at Daytona earlier this year to do the Michelin Pilot Challenge race, how much he loved it. things didn't work out for them in the race so well, but he was so intrigued and he had so much fun that he really wants to go back. And so that's somebody who doesn't dread road racing, who's asking to go back into that.
And I think it was like a light switch went off last year at, I want to say, Watkins Glen, where it was I think a lot of it was just confidence. Like, I think for a long time he realized, he's thought, like, I'm just trying to hang on, I'm just, and I'm like, that's everybody, bud. Like, Scott Dixon was the one that somebody he talked to that gave him that boost of confidence as well. But it's like, I know you feel like you're at a place, but so's everybody else. Like, no, this is not easy for anybody. Like, everybody feels like on edge, and like whatever light switch went off last year at Watkins Glen, where we ran top 10 the whole day. From that point on, every road race we've gone to, he's been a top 10 guy. And from literally 2 or 3 years ago, we couldn't sniff the top 25. So it's just credit to him. But yeah, Vegas is also a good track for us. Casey, who are you picking?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought we were going into picks. I'm sorry. Who are you going to pick?
I will take Larson. Thanks, Bob.
Weird. I will take. I'll take Willie B.
That's who I was going to take if I still had him. I had SVG last week, and TJ had Allmendinger, and I kind of snookered him to get him.
And you yourself.
And myself. If I'd have told him SVG was in the race, he would have taken him, and then I would have taken Allmendinger. So it actually bit me, and I would have taken the lead. Who'd you pick? William Byron?
Yeah.
I'll take. Have I picked Bell yet? I'll take Bell.
Do we have TJs yet?
We don't care about
Yeah,
TJ.
he texted me Larson, then he texted me Byron, so we're waiting to see who his third pick is, because I texted him and I said, I think we're going to need a third, so we got the 3 little bubbles. Kyle Busch is TJ's pick this week.
Non-playoff guy. Interesting.
Hometown guy. He's got to win, right? He's got to win in next couple weeks.
He's got 4 more chances.
And he's going to be good. Like, he's going to be good at Vegas. He's going to be good at Homestead. Where else do we go? Martinsville's going to be tough. I don't think anybody's going to pass there. But and then Phoenix, who knows? But hopefully, as much as we've been a Kyle Busch lover on this show, I hope he does get a win this year.
TJ said, Lee, that it's not a big deal if he doesn't get a win this year. He said it. Did he not?
Yeah, he did. I don't know if Lee knows how big of an idiot TJ is sometimes. So.
I'm surprised you haven't called out that he thinks that Denny doesn't belong in the Hall of Fame yet.
He did say that on here also.
What? He kind of backtracked it when Denny was on.
When Denny came here, he did not have that opinion. But yeah, he said Denny doesn't belong in the Hall of Fame because he's not won a championship. And I think that was the year Dale went in, and I was like, tough take, bud.
What about the 3 Daytona 500s?
Yeah.
Real quick, with the last few races left of the season, what do you see as being the biggest storylines for you guys? Not only the end of the season, but heading into next year with schedule changes, driver swaps, all of that. What are we thinking?
Ooh. Well, I mean, obviously you have the futures of 2311 in front row. They're still a little bit to be determined.
I just hope we run good the next 4 races.
So that will be obviously a storyline. And then I think the other storyline for me will be one of the guys who got knocked out of the playoffs, and that's Chase Briscoe. And how does he do in the move to JGR?
What about Spire?
I think there'll be a storyline, but I don't, their kind of growth is gradual. So, I think they're more a storyline. Where are they 3 years from now, 4 years from now?
Lee, you got any good storylines you're looking forward to?
Well, I do. I like the emergence or the continual growth of Spire. Because for me, like in a broadcast, it's such a living, breathing organism that there's the main stories, but I love like looking around the sides, like what else is happening, and I love it when you see Zane Smith up there or Hocevar or now with the driver swap, Justin Haley's back there, and I enjoy seeing their success because it's a surprise. Like you're looking around and it's almost a routine sort of, where you're talking about a Team Penske car or Stuart Haas or there's a Hendrick car, whatever, and then, here's a Spire car. It kind of grabs your attention. So I agree with Bob on that. You just continue to follow their story. I'm a fan of new champions. Like if there could be a new champion this year, I mentioned earlier Christopher Bell. I think that would be good for the sport. That guy shown that he's the total package, and a fresh champion, I think, would be a good thing.
I'm gonna put you on the spot because
I'm not British.
I can only do the
Bobby.
British thing. I want you to do the lead in for DBC for next week, right? So we're coming out of Vegas. We don't know how the race is going to go, but you're the setup for kicking off the DBC show.
Do it now?
Yeah.
Who's your guest next week?
No, we don't have one.
We won't have
No, we're coming back from Vegas. Nobody wants to get up that early. Yeah. Bob's going back to New York. You're going back to Connecticut. Yeah. So we're going to be here by ourselves. TJ will be here with us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
Lucky me.
All right.
You ready?
I'm ready.
Yeah.
You do 3, 2, 1.
Yeah. You ready? All right. Here we go.
Ready.
3, 2, 1.
It was a massive weekend in Las Vegas. Freddie and Brett are a little worn out and they're running low on energy after Vegas, but it was a successful weekend. They're a little poorer, so take it easy on them on this week's Door Bumper Clear.
There we go.
Just play that every week. And just replace
That's
Vegas
why I
with
wanted him
whatever
on here.
track.
I only wanted him on here just for that. And to hear him say Darlington.
Darlington.
Bob, we appreciate you coming as always.
Thanks for having me.
Your expertise is unmatched.
Yeah.
And Leigh, we appreciate you coming on as well. I'm glad you ran into Mike Davis, and I'm glad
Thank
you
you.
let me slide into your DMs.
Yep, thank you. It's nice to actually be here and see it in the flesh. It's
You're
cool.
welcome
Cool.
anytime.
Thank you.
All right, we'll see y'all after Vegas.
Have a great week.
Hopefully.
We out. Holla.
Word.